In order to get into a discussion about specific tidal data techniques, we first need to get a basic understanding of tides. There are all kinds of resources available online talking about tides. In fact, NOAA has an online overview of tides that I'll be summarizing here. You can see the link to the full summary below if you feel like reading more on the topic. Once we get through that summary, we'll be talking about the differences between using single tide files, zone definition files, and Ticari grid files. Tides are the result of the gravitational attraction of the sun and the moon on the earth. The strength of the attraction has to do with the mass of the sun and the moon and the distance between them and the earth. Although the sun is much larger, the moon is much closer, and because of that, its pull is about twice as strong. This causes a bulge in the ocean on the side of the earth that faces the moon. As the moon circles around the earth, the water wants to keep moving away from the surface, which creates an inertial force that causes a similar bulge in the ocean on the opposite side of the earth. But the earth is rotating, and those bulges are made of water, so they aren't tied down at any one point on land. They stay aligned with the moon. And the sun plays a part as well, but not as much as the moon, so we'll leave the sun out for this discussion. What you find is that wherever you are on Earth, you go through these two bulges once a day, causing 2 daily high tides and 2 daily low tides. It actually works on lunar days, which are 50 minutes longer due to the complementary rotation of the moon. But we'll just stick with the term daily for this video. So you might take a look at a tide chart and see something that looks like one of these graphs. It looks like there is a lot of variation going on there. See, there are many factors that influence tidal patterns that basically narrow down to land getting in the way of ocean currents and how far north or south you are from the equator. It's an oversimplification, but it serves our needs. A place like the Gulf of Mexico is usually going to have only one high tide, otherwise known as a diurnal tide, due to its latitude and its almost landlocked nature that prevents water from flowing in and out uninhibited. Much of the East Coast experiences 2 high tide periods, or semi-diurnal tides, as it is more open to the ocean currents. Basically, depending on where you are, you're going to see a lot of different tides. NOAA captures the tidal signature of an area using tide stations that it has set up all over the United States. These stations take a measurement of the water levels every second and make 6-minute process data available to you through the NOAA Tides and Currents website and web services. Hydro's Fetch Tides tool uses the web services portal to package tides for easier use. The data you are able to download manually through the Tides and Currents site has changed in format over time. Currently, water levels may be saved in a CSV format, which isn't exactly how TCARIS is expecting you to input the tidal information. TCARIS supports multiple tide file formats, including the Canadian Hydrographic Service CALIS format and the now outdated NOS preliminary and final formats. These are old formats once put out by the NOAA Tides and Currents website. Fetch Tides packages the web services water level data in the old NOS tide format compatible with TCARIS. You can see the differences here, with the CSV file shown on the left and the tide file shown on the right. The tide file will give you the tides at a specific location, which works great for small surveys near one of these stations. But what about larger surveys that cover more ground? For these areas, we can use multiple tide stations to build a network of zones, where each discrete zone is associated with a specific tide station. The actual tidal value at a particular point in your survey area is determined through a simple range multiplier and time shift, according to how far you are from the relevant zone's controlling station. Multiple stations can be associated with a single zone to cover data outages and other simple scaling concerns, such as riverine locations. The uncertainty associated with this zone tides process may be accounted for in TCARIS using the compute TPU dialog. Additionally, the ZDF format now includes a facility for this as well. Zone tides is a somewhat inelegant mechanism that relies on a lot of estimation. To address these shortcomings, NOAA developed the tidal constituent and residual interpolation, or Ticari method. Ticari uses a much finer grid that is mathematically generated between digital shoreline data to the outer boundary of the survey area. Ticari creates weighting functions that basically tell you the contribution of a tide station wherever you are in the grid, where the harmonic and the residual water level amplitude and phasing components are interpolated separately and then combined. Harmonic components are your predicted tides, while residual components are the difference between your observed water levels and the predicted tides. In PyDroPy Ticari, the Ticari TC file is used to load tides into your HIPS lines using the navigation track information. Both tide correctors and tide uncertainty are loaded into your project survey lines by PyTicari. And there you have it. Hopefully, you now have a basic understanding of tides and how they are used in the survey world. There is much more to each of the topics discussed in this video, and you can certainly learn more on the NOAA Tides and Currents website, or by reading some of the papers published by NOAA folks on tides and tidal techniques. Thanks for watching, and good luck out there.